Brilliant, funny, understanding, loving, collected, but above all hot are the expressions used to describe the idea of cool girl in David Fincher's film Gone Girl. Used as an anti-type monologue to combat the image of cool girl ideology, Fincher highlights character traits all too common in film regardless of genre. Looking at the defining characteristic which make up a cool girl character narrative, a typical theme appears, that the female love interest is used to display masculine qualities to appeal to their male counterpart and be perceived as an idealistic woman. As journalist Sarah Ditham explains, cool girl demands that she be seen as an exception, superior to other women because she alone has the insight to grasp that women do exist for the pleasure of men. One major problematic instance that occurs within this, however, is how female characters are being derived from stock characters that were created in relevance to something no longer. Reflecting on the usage of modern stock characters, patterning appears in figures represented in age-old theatrical performance. In the instance of the cool girl, character persona is taken from Italian theatre of commedia dell'arte, the most prevalent female characters in the productions being Columbina, who represents the working class, taking masculine qualities to appear stronger, and Immorati, who represents the dainty lovers of the courts. Author Anne McNeill heavily emphasizes in her book Music and Women of the Commedia dell'arte that commedia dell'arte performances thus mirror societies for which they were created. So regarding this statement, it could be argued that we no longer live in a society relevant for these models of theatre. In terms of the role of the female love interest, stock characters play a large emphasis on the combination of both of these outdated reproductions of persona. Rather than creating new character distinctions, films market this image rebranding it with differing names like Cool Girl and the Manic Pixie Dream Girl. These characters exist to guide the protagonist on his journey of discovery. So what is this teaching modern society? For the film Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, character emphasis lays in the titular character Scott. For Scott, his envisionment of an idealistic girlfriend is literally represented on film through a dream. A central element to the core of the plot, his manic approach to seeking out and finding what he deems the woman of his dreams. Regardless that neither of these characters have spoken prior in the film, Scott's blatant obsession with Ramona pedestals her, making her the physical embodiment of an unrealistic fantasy. For the character of Ramona, she's marketed in a two-dimensional state, taking on the stereotyped male interest. The writer's rationality behind these traits is simply to make her bisexual, in order to justify the character's stereotypical male interests, defending the idea that women need to be portrayed as sexually liberated cool girls in order to appeal to their largely male audience. And in a film aimed at male viewers, the idea of a woman, who is undeniably a recycled stock character, fitted to act in tropes which appeal to a male lead, is a great marketing tool at attracting a male throng. Yet this completely sends out an outdated idea, that women are to be presented as the supporting background character in a male fantasy. Similar to the role of Ramona, 500 Days of Summer plays on the idea of the manic pixie dream girl. She embodies everything that the lead character perceives in his idealistic woman, a guy's girl, someone who possesses female beauty, yet leads a life where she's relatable and cool to men. Yet the main reason for the discussion of the film is to address the concept theorized by the AV Club in that manic pixie dream girl archetype is largely defined as a secondary status. In a film where only one perspective is shown, being Tom's, the audience has the capacity to easily remove Summer from the narrative and regard her only as a villainous character who breaks Tom's heart. Following the trope of a cat and mouse game, Summer's catch me if you can mentality is dangled in front of Tom using the idea of a reoccurring boys' night out. The problem here, however, is Summer never consents to a committed relationship. She even says,
I just don't feel comfortable being anyone's girlfriend. I don't actually feel comfortable being anyone's anything, you know.
Teaching the audience that it's okay to chase a woman just because she has traits that Tom finds hot. In the genre of romantic comedy, cool girls are typically stock characters that writers can rely on to help propel the storyline in its convenience. This is shockingly evident in How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. In one distinct scene, we see Andy ride off on a motorcycle, previously discussing the likes of basketball, all aimed to achieve the approval of Benjamin. Parallel this to a scene where the character aims to repel her pursuer, she acts in an overtly traditional feminine way, decorating his apartment with flowers and interrupting his boys' poker's night to his friends' horrors. As authors De La Mente and Hyde attribute, characteristics of masculinity are socially ascribed, comparing this to the argument proposed by Robert Zeglin in that behaviors are simultaneously gendering and gendered, we can see why when female characters are wanting to relate and be seen as an idealistic dream, they turn to masculine ventures in the pursuit of men. Nevertheless, this is not an uncommon trope in film, as romantic comedy is one of the most generic of genres, relying heavily on stock elements and personae. Using cliches helps attribute to the narrative's function of boy meets girl concluding with a happy ending, a storyline familiar during the Venetian courts of commedia. Yet women's roles still remain the same, as characteristics resembled over 500 years ago, in the fact that women are still embodying the masculinity of men merely for the gratification of male interest. The reality is nothing has changed. It's rather the marketing that has.